there we go. Mid-year do's and don'ts in digital marketing. So look, our three speakers today are myself, Hilary Quinn and Alexandra Pedro. We're going to have three quick presentations and we're going to finish up with the Q&A. So in the next 40 minutes, we're going to be talking a lot about the trends and the tools you need at the moment to take control of digital marketing. You can take notes. We do have a Linktree URL, which I've just dropped into the chat. It's Linktree/bite-size marketing. And we have downloadables and links to our profiles there if you want to connect with us. So actually, just as a first thing, I would really love to get an idea of what stage you guys are at. So if you're willing to drop into the chat, are you 1, 2, or 3? Are you doing your own digital marketing? You're really loving it. You're interested in learning more. Are you doing your own content and you're not loving it quite as much? Maybe it's taking up a lot of time, or maybe you are specifically avoiding doing your digital marketing because it's taking up a lot of your time. And number 3 is you're outsourcing, or you're considering outsourcing to someone at some point in the future, because that will help us work out which way to pitch aspects of our talks. So yeah, if you pop that number 1, 2, or 3 into the chat, that will give us an idea of where you are. Okay, so first up, it's me. So look, as digital marketing becomes very specialized and very diverse, outsourcing is getting very, very big as a trend. But how do you work out what help you actually need and how you're going to get the most out of that help? So I'm going to talk you through strategizing what you need to do next and getting bang for your buck, your time and your energy, whether you're working on it yourself or whether you're outsourcing to someone else. So first off, I could just introduce myself. My name is Sadhbh Warren. I'm a project manager and a writer, and today I'll be talking about the state of digital marketing and specifically some do's and don'ts for saving time and money in the current environment. Look, I'm going to talk about strategizing what you want to do and then getting bang for your buck, whatever option you go with. The advice I have today will mainly come back to creating a solid content brief, which is useful whatever situation you're in. And I'll share a link to that with you at the end of the session again, but it's in the link tree basically. So what I would say is there's a real tendency for digital marketing articles to be all, oh, jump on this trend and reach your goals. I think that's completely the wrong way around. I'm going to turn it around and say, know your goals, and then you're positioned to take advantage of trends, because otherwise you're really just asking to waste your time and your money. So first off, what is digital marketing? In a nutshell, digital marketing or online marketing refers to any marketing done through electronic devices and screens such as PCs and phones. So you've got your websites, your SEO, your SEM, your content marketing, your social media, advertising, pay-per-click, email marketing, all that fits under the banner of digital marketing. Digital marketing reaches a much broader audience than traditional marketing at a much smaller cost, but it's not without its problems if you want to get involved with it. So let's talk about the trends currently. So online is a growing part of every day. 89% of adults are online daily, and 60% of traffic is now coming through from mobiles. Social media use is on the rise as well. TikTok is actually going fastest, but Facebook is still the top for most marketing professionals, particularly for local businesses who want people to come through their door. If you're very visual, Instagram's great for reaching new audiences. You'll get basically 4 times the reach that you will do on Facebook. And as digital marketing is getting specialized, you can't expect one person to know and do it all. So outsourcing to experts in each of these is a very fast growing trend. Google's workforce, for example, now has more freelancers than permanent employees. So look, overall, COVID pushed people online in 2020, and there's now an expectation that your business will be online in some way. One study found that 76% of customers are going to look at your online presence before they come to your shop, even if they know your shop is there. So people expect you to have a point of sale, which is generally a website, though for some businesses it could work with an Instagram store or an Etsy, and 79% of users expect prompt customer service through that point of sale. So that means you need to be checking your messages every single day. So look, if you reach that standard, it is worthwhile. There's a reward. You're very well placed to make sales. 89% of people are likely to purchase from you if they like you on social media. 85% will recommend the brand to others. That's a huge amount of potential customers. So if you want to grow your business, taking digital marketing seriously is a good idea. We're seeing businesses investing for serious growth in the area. So the recommendation is that you spend 7% of your revenue on digital marketing. So is anyone here spending that? Does anyone here have that to spend? So look, we know how much of a rabbit hole it could be in terms of your time and your money. So the question, I guess, that we're talking about today isn't why do digital marketing, is why are you doing digital marketing? So strategizing your why and making sure that your digital marketing efforts work with that why is a really, really big part of your success, and making a good brief is a part of that and what I'm talking about today. So what's the purpose of your digital marketing? Generally, it's about persuading customers to take your desired action online. So you should ask yourself off the bat, are you making it hard for people to do what you want? So I'm going to do this one again. Everyone's heard the saying from me about 5 times now. Do polish your current setup and don't make it hard for people to give you money. That's basically my slogan. Get your ducks in a row and optimize your basics. Go to your current digital presence and check if people can get hold of you and buy from you. Someone was to look you up right now, they will end up on your profile or your website. What are they going to find there? You need to look at them and say, am I making it hard for people to give me money? So every piece of friction that you create lowers the odds of a connection or a sale. If your Instagram, for example, if the bio links to a broken site or doesn't have a way to contact you, you've lost people. If your checkout process is a nightmare on your store, 40% of people will abandon a cart because a checkout process is too long or complex. If your site loads more slowly than 3 seconds, 40% of customers will bounce. It doesn't work well on mobile, you've probably lost about 58% of people. So you really do need to check your current setup, look at your digital platforms with a fresh eye, update your bios and your website so that the customers find it really easy to connect with you and take the action that you want them to do. You need to tell people, be clear about who you are, what you offer, how they can contact you, and what they should do next if they want to buy. And once you've got that done, once you're ready for people to come and see you, you can get strategic about what you need to do in other aspects of it. So what I would say is the next big do and don't is do prioritize your platforms and don't try to be a team of marketeers as well as a one-man show. It's important to realize the big hitters you're admiring along might have a huge team of specialists. Small SMEs generally have, with a good presence, usually have at least 4 or 5 full-time people managing every facet of the digital marketing. So they might have freelancers that support them. So when you're seeing these people online and comparing yourself, you're one person in business doing this in your spare time to them, you're not being fair to yourself. All right. So let me show you what some of the big brands are rocking under the hood. Here you go. So broadly, they're going to have a marketing director up the top who understands everything. And then underneath them, you've got the marketing specialists and managers, your e-com specialists, your branding managers. These people aren't even the people making content. They're making plans for how that content works. A totally different thing. They're analyzing it. So they'd be supported by an in-house team or content made by agencies and freelancers, which might include your content writing, your copywriting, social media marketers for specific platforms, SEO specialists for keyword research, content creators, video producers, graphic designers. There's a massive amount of investment in this for companies who are serious about their social media. So big brands might have about a dozen people on their team. So remember, that's 7% of revenue we were talking about. That's what they're spending it on. They're spending it on staff, they're spending it on paid ads, they're spending it on A/B testing those paid ads. They're spending serious money to make their money. So look, if you can't throw a ton of money at it, you need to strategize what's important to you. So as well as a functional point of sale that we were talking about already, for most people, it's going to be their website. You need to consider what your top option for a platform is. So who are your customers? Are you where your customers are? What's already working well? How are people finding you? What content is engaging with them on what platforms? What platforms should you be on? What are the best practices there? Do you have a plan for your communications on that platform? For example, if you're selling B2B, generally you need to be on LinkedIn, where infographics are really king. And if you've got more visual items, Instagram can be fantastic for that. Facebook for local people, Insta for the oldies. Sorry, guys, we're old. And TikTok is actually the younger. I'm sorry, if you're over 30, you're old now. I don't make the rules. Look, if you're feeling lost, this chart is also in the Linktree handout. Okay, so you'll find it there. So I did say platform singular. Pick one thing that matters and do it well rather than trying to spread yourself across 5 platforms. One of the most common bits of advice that I give people is ditch the social media that isn't working. It's taking up your time, it's taking up your energy, and your efforts could be better placed elsewhere. And actually, on that note, here's one that my second favorite saying is, don't forget the cost of your own time. When you're strategizing, it's important to pick goals that are measurable and actually matter, that have value. What is this aspect of digital marketing actually worth to you? What will investing it do for your business? A very common one I hear is go viral, which it's just, what's viral going to do? Is it going to make you sales? You can go viral for a nip slip, but it's not going to get anybody buying your stuff. So I saw someone set a target of they wanted 1,000 followers on Instagram, but are those customers buying from you? Maybe a better target is better engagement on Instagram, your posts getting likes, comments, and shares. Do you have visual content and a written plan and visuals that showcases your best aspect and is converting your browsers to buyers? So what's your actual goal? How will your digital marketing efforts lead to real value for your business? If you're pouring time and effort into something, what do you want back? Goal setting around value isn't just useful for outsourcing, but also for treating your own time with respect. And don't forget, your time is a cost. What value do you place on your time? So I think there's this really annoying misconception that because anyone can open a social media account and post it, everyone can do it equally well, and it's a really good use of everyone's time. So this is my favorite one. Anyone can write. As a content writer, I get that a lot. Anyone can cook, but we've all sat through meals we'd rather not have eaten. Not everyone enjoys cooking. Not everyone finds it interesting. And when you go to an expensive restaurant looking at professional experience, you're expecting the cooking to be done by, say, Gordon Ramsay, rather than a college student on an internship with 10 other things to do that day. You can tell the difference. So you need to think about value. A website is a 24-hour salesperson for your business. It needs to be at least competent. So I work with a very talented web designer who has a saying she uses a lot. If you think a professional is expensive, wait till you see what an amateur costs you. If you can't afford professional help, at least keep it. Well, look, I'll just go back to the key point. Let's make the last one is, look, if you're already planning and making content, you're spending time you could be spending elsewhere in your business, you're already spending money on it in a real way, so make it count. So you need to make a project or a content plan and refer back to it. And this is my final point. So here we go. Create a brief and don't expect any help you do get to mind read. So what's in a content brief? It's the idea of a brief goes by a few names. Project managers out there called a project charter, for example, or a project summary. But at its core, it documents the why, the what, and the how of something that needs to be done. The why is the business's background, your goals, why you need to do this project. The what is the deliverables and what you're making. And the how is the budget, timeline, people, how it gets done. There's a draft again in the Linktree, and it solves multiple purposes as you go along. Doing one at the beginning makes you think about the key aspects of the project. It lets you clarify measurable goals, and you can use it as a job description when you're hiring people, as well as part of the contract to refer back to when a deliverable is brought to you to see if it's up to scratch. Look, it's really useful from start to finish as you manage the process. If you're working on digital marketing yourself, it's a touchstones to bring you back to base every time you consider adding an aspect. Is it useful? Is it working towards the goals? And if you bring someone in, it creates accountability and clarity throughout the project. You can manage and direct people through the brief, which is very helpful. So without clear goals, you're setting yourself and everybody up to fail. I was talking to someone recently who said that they had employed a VA for a few months. They were going to let them go because they didn't feel they were getting value for money. And they said that it was literally because they weren't giving the VA input and they didn't tell them because they didn't know themselves exactly what they wanted. And I felt very sorry for the VA because I've been in that situation, virtual assistant. You can't achieve anything because you don't know the goals and you're fumbling around in the dark. And I also felt sorry for the owner who'd wasted like hundreds, if not thousands of euros of her money on something that didn't really get results for her. So the key to working and outsourcing effectively is you've got to set goals, realistic goals, and agree on the benchmarks for success in advance. So look, I've run through a lot today quite quickly. And there's one thing you take away from this. If you want to make the most of your digital marketing, instead of wasting your time and money online, you need a decent brief. Trends are going to come and go, but having a clear sight of your goals lets you avoid being sucked in by them and positions you to take advantage of them. So what is actually important to you in 2022? What's going to get you where you want to go? That's what you need to think about. Everything I've spoken about today will be available through the Linktree, and this webinar will be available online at some point in the next couple of weeks if you want to look through it. There's a good breakdown also in the Linktree about what platform to get on and the various roles in digital marketing if you're looking for specialists, so you understand how the titles are used. So bringing in a specialist is always a good resort for big goals like pay-per-click or new web design. Specialists often have a couple areas into expertise. For example, Hilary here does design and SEO, and I do content strategy as well as writing. You don't have to get hyper specialized. You could look at bringing in a virtual assistant with social media skills for general social media management, or creating a content strategy with a specialist that you can then implement within your own business. Just always make a plan before you spend your time and your money, even if that plan is just 10 minutes working out what you want to do next. Anyway, I'm up. If you're a solo or a small business and you would like someone to brainstorm the next steps with, I'm always happy to have a quick chat with people. I've got a couple of free 15-minute Zoom slots every month where I talk to people about things. And I hope you found this talk helpful. And now I'm going to hand you over to Hilary, who's going to take us into the marvelous, marvelous world of SEO and all the joyful things that are coming down the track at us. Take it away, Hilary.
Thanks, Sadhbh. What an incredible presentation. That was incredibly good. I took one screenshot. I thought that diagram where you showed like the SEO specialist and then you had the other roles within a medium-sized business, fab. So I have a screenshot of that, so maybe we'll make like a little graphic out of it later. That was just invaluable. Mine is just, why do I have to follow Sadhbh? Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. So I'm just going to make sure that I have this open properly. There it is.
Looks good.
Okay, great. There might be a bit of a glitch on, I've just moved that box to the bottom right. So apologies if there's a bit of a glitch on the bottom right, but it should load after a couple of seconds, I'm hoping. As always, like technical difficulties. So hello to everybody, my name is Hilary Quinn and I'm a web designer that specializes in search engine optimization, otherwise known as SEO, as I've mentioned. This is how to appear in Google search results with a good ranking. So today I'm going to run through recent Google updates you might need to know about in 2022 and how they might impact organic traffic to your website. So there's a page experience Google update that completed in March 22 this year. So if you notice positive or negative shifts in desktop search rankings occurring on or after March 3rd, could be attributed to Google's page experience update. A page experience update for mobile search results also completed in 2021 and applied many of the same metrics. So basically they finished it for mobile and now they finished it for desktop as well. Page experience has been confirmed by Google, and they don't do this a lot because they keep their algorithm secret. But with page experience, it has been confirmed by Google as having a direct effect on a website's ranking success or not. So a quote for that: in cases where there are many pages that may be similar in relevance, page experience can be much more important for visibility in search. So that's what their team is telling us. So desktop page experience ranking factors include, there are three aspects to this. The first is core web vitals. Sadhbh touched on that a little bit. How quickly your web page loads is part of that. HTTPS secure website. So you've probably noticed over the past while, people have been transitioning from HTTP to HTTPS, and you see the little lock in the browser to show that you're on a secure website. And the third is no intrusive interstitials, otherwise known as pop-up windows or pop-ups. So before we delve into these three metrics, I want to look at one of the most serious issues that could be affecting your website right now. So let's delve into one important aspect of page experience: pop-up windows. Why do people use them so badly on their websites? So did you know the inventor of the pop-up apologized to the world for inventing it? So here we have Thanos on the left, a Marvel supervillain, and Ethan Zuckerberg on the right, who made this apology as the inventor of the pop-up. So the above image is a popular meme on Reddit. And the quote from Ethan when he made this apology was, "Along the way, we ended up creating one of the most hated tools in the advertiser's toolkit, the pop-up ad. I wrote the code to launch the window and run an ad in it. I'm sorry, our intentions were good." So for now, I'm just going to go back to, because we have three metrics to cover with this. So the first I'm going to go into are the core web vitals. So first of all, how do you check your core web vitals? So you need to set your website up in Google Search Console. You can set your website up. It's easily set up and validated on many content management systems, and they might already have a dedicated page in your content management system to integrate this easily. I just refer to it as GSC. So in GSC, all you need to do to check your page experience is navigate to experience and then core web vitals. So here you'll see a sample of pages taken from your website and whether they pass or fail in the core web vitals test. So core web vitals, to put it simply, includes how quickly your website loads and how much movement is on the page while it loads. Why does Google care about this? Google cares about this because your users do. So your web visitors want quick loading pages. They want to be able to click on images or buttons without, for example, clickable elements moving around on the page while you're trying to click them. An understandable annoyance for visitors who will not stick around on your website. Again, as Sadhbh kind of mentioned, there are other things with that too. But especially if one of your competitors has done a better job on this than you have. So the second metric that we're going to go into is security. So this again goes to page experience. If you look at your website in the browser, you should see a small lock next to your domain to signify that you're using a secure HTTPS connection. So your URL will be displayed as HTTPS www.mydomain.ie instead of HTTP www.mydomain.ie. So this means all requests made through your website are encrypted, and that includes any web form submissions that might be made. I'm going to touch on privacy here. It's not necessarily covered under the requirement for HTTPS, but privacy is something that you're going to need to tackle under GDPR and just under what your users are going to expect going forward. So today, privacy is incredibly important, and you need to keep your customers' data safe at all points of communication. As you can see on my website, I also have a badge that reads, this website or this web page did not contact any trackers. This is because I use a privacy-enabled analytics solution called Plausible Analytics, instead of Google Analytics that does track your web visitors, as you'll see on the next slide. So I like putting web visitors' privacy front and center because it's a better experience for them, and a better experience for them means more web traffic for me. So to go into this 2022, since we're trying to cover, the current updates with this particular workshop, this 2022, we have already seen a court case in January when a German court fined an unidentified website €100 for violating EU privacy law by importing a Google hosted web font. So self-host fonts where possible, and explore privacy-enabled options for your website to future-proof it, especially when we know that third-party cookies are generally blocked at browser level now anyway, and users also don't want or like being invasively tracked. So to just touch on the third-party cookies, as they're called, in 2023, even Google Chrome will be getting rid completely of third-party cookies. So with the writing on the wall, I would say now is the best time for you to get ahead of that. So if you remember the apology from the inventor of the pop-up window that I read out to you earlier, well, this is why. If your website looks like this, you are actively damaging your ability to get customers through it. In my experience, when people don't outsource web design and or SEO, you can end up with a mess. Users will be frustrated and you might be actively damaging your business. So here is an example all too frequently seen on websites with terrible user experience. A chat widget is obscuring the close button on a cookie consent notice bar so that the users can't close the consent window. While they grapple with that, a pop-up appears encouraging them to sign up for an email newsletter. This is not only a terrible user experience, but it's likely also preventing disabled people from accessing your content. In fact, Google noticed this and penalize you by giving you a fail in the page experience metric, which will now impact your ability to rank in Google, whether desktop or mobile. So my advice, put your user first. Stop doing this with your website. It's bad for web visitors, it's bad for disabled people, it's bad for your Google rank, and it's ultimately bad for your business. In 2022, with page experience on both mobile and desktop now, it's time to take web UX or user experience seriously. So here's a real life example of what just removing a pop-up does to page experience, as seen in the Google Search Console dashboard for a client of mine. So as you can see, they had completely flatlined. The only change that was made was a pop-up was removed, and it went from there to having all green good URLs, as they call them, in the dashboard. So I speak more about UX on my blog. So you can visit proximawebdesign.ie, and I have a blog there that goes into a lot of, there's some beginner stuff, some kind of medium stuff, but you'll find a blog in there that will kind of cover user experience, UX, design, that kind of stuff, SEO. if you want to find more content. But to sum up, this 2022, you cannot get away anymore with ignoring user privacy, providing insecure websites, having slow load times, or ignoring user experience in favor of intrusive pop-ups. And that brings me to the end of my session. Thank you for listening, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can scan that QR code or just search Hilary Quinn and you'll find me very easily, so that we can stay in touch. Oh, and on to you, Sadhbh. Sorry, on to you, Alexandra.
Okay, do you want to answer Claire's question or do we wait until the Q&A?
We can wait for the Q&A, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving on to our third talk. This is very quick. It's the way that these bite-sized marketing sessions are created. I'm going to be, oh no, you're already seeing the end of it. Oh no. Can you see my
Yeah, it's cleared now. It's blank.
Okay, sorry for that. So I'm going to be talking to you about brand guidelines. Anyone who has heard me talk before knows how passionate I am about brand guidelines, about brand consistency. And today I'm going to dive deeper into this essential piece of every business puzzle, as far as I'm concerned, and give you the do's and don'ts when it comes to creating your brand guidelines and also implementing them. And I'm going to also throw in a few 2022 trends that may impact your brand guidelines if they impact your specific customers. So let's start with what is your brand. Your brand, in instance, is what other people think of you. So it's not who your business is, but it is what other people think that it is and that it stands for. So the key here is to match the way that you present yourself with the way that you want to be perceived, so that in a way you can influence the people who see your business to perceive you in the way that you think you are, in the way that you think you should be perceived. So you've heard from Sadhbh that it is very important to communicate effectively with the digital marketing experts you hire, and brand guidelines are essential for that. Our first do of today, I'm going to be talking to you about do's and don'ts. Our first do is do have brand guidelines. Okay, you can see my very poor drawing, I hope. So let's assume that these are brand guidelines. So do have brand guidelines. The brand guidelines is a document. It could be a text document, or it could be a presentation, a slideshow document that lists the way that people should be communicating as your business. It can be shared with everyone within and beyond your business, so that it can be portrayed consistently. In general, your brand guidelines include the values of your brand, what your brand sounds like, and what it looks like, which leads me to our first don't. Don't just focus on image in your brand guidelines. Your brand guidelines should include your colors and how your logo must be portrayed and implemented in every scenario, but it should also include reasons behind why it is portrayed in a certain way, its values, as well as, for example, the type of language that you use. So it goes beyond image, and it also includes voice, and it includes the core of your brand, so that everyone is on the same brainwave. Also, don't forget to pair your brand guidelines with elements and templates that you think should go along with it. This includes logo and photographs that you already have for your brand, so that people, for example, are creating social media posts for you, can have access to those elements and then use them when creating those images. And also templates like email and design templates, so that you can have a consistent image, and so that you can also save some time when creating emails or designs for your social media. Finally, when you have your brand guidelines and all your elements, you should put them up in a folder in your cloud. So it should be up, available for everyone that is interacting as your business, and it should also be available in a cloud, so that when someone changes or adds something to your folder, everyone who has access to it will have access to those changes and can see what the latest brand guidelines and elements are. So don't forget to share your brand guidelines both with yourself across your various devices. That's going to save you a lot of time if you can do that, and also with other people. So this could be the freelancers that Sadhbh talked earlier. It could be your social media manager, it could be your web designer, everyone who is interacting as your business, be it externally on social media, website, wherever it is, or internally, if you have a bigger business, should have access to your brand folder with your brand guidelines, your elements, and your templates. As for adapting your brand guidelines to the times we live in, I advise you to do that regularly. You do not need to do it like big corporations do, that overhaul their brand guidelines every year or every few years, but you do need to adapt your guidelines to the time that you live in, as well as to changes within your business, its people, or the services that you deliver. As for adapting it to the times that we live in, pay attention to customer trends. You can check at the beginning of each year projected trends for the following year. So you could take a look at those articles that come up, and you can see if what is written in there applies to your specific customers or not. But then in addition to those generalized trends, you should also take a look at what your specific customers say. So if they say that they have a new challenge, or they have found a new solution for a challenge that they've had before, you should pay attention to that and see the changes in their behavior and adapt your brand guidelines to match where they are and what they are actually needing. As for 2022, people now care about authentic brands. That has been in the making for a while, but you should be aware that having a fake identity is not going to cut it today. You should have a purpose, and you should care about the well-being of both the people in your business and beyond your business, as well as the environment. It should be something that is authentic, that aligns with your actions. It's not just something that you say. It should really be the way that you act as well. Also, people are looking for a seamless interaction digitally with the brands that they support, including all digital platforms, your website, social media, and maybe even your app, sometimes your WhatsApp. It should all be linked and be very easy to jump from one side to the other. The consistency should be there in terms of brand, and it should also just everything work very well together. And finally, I have a small caveat to what I mentioned before. You should adapt your brand guidelines, but you should not change your brand too much too often, because if you do that, people who have seen your brand before may not recognize it anymore. So try to make it so that someone who has seen it before still recognizes it by maintaining some of the elements that you had before. So it could be colors, it could be just the core values as well. It could be the photographs, something that people will still recognize your brand and not think that it's a whole new business. And finally, I have one final do, because I've heard feedback from our last call that sometimes all this information that we dump into you is a bit too much. So my final do is do take it one step at a time. Your brand guidelines folder will grow over time. So just start by setting up the password protected folder in your cloud that will contain your brand guidelines and the related elements and templates. Then drop the elements that you already have into it. So that could be your logo, any photos, any fonts, any colors, drop everything into it. Then create the document that will be your brand guidelines. And for now, just write down what you know about what your brand stands for and looks like and sounds like. And once you have all of that ready, you basically have a folder ready. So it's not organized, it's not complete, but it's something. So now share that with everyone who communicates as your business. In time, when you have time, and as people join your business as well and bring their own expertise onto it, you can grow those brand guidelines, that first iteration that you made. You can polish it, you can add to it, for example, creating new elements and templates and organizing it all into digestible folders and sections. So this was it for me today. I'm going to just very quickly share with you the checklist that you can download from my website without signing up for anything. It's just free for you to download. If you want to follow it, it goes through what I think should at least be an initial version of your brand guidelines, so that you just go through the list. It's very long, but I just advise you to start at the beginning and then go through it to create your brand guidelines. And yeah, that was it for me today. And we'll move on to our Q&A session, where you can ask all your questions for me, for Hilary, and for Sadhbh. And if we do not get to your question, you can always email each of us. My email is at alexandra@apmarketing.ie.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. So I'm just going to stop recording this section of the Zoom, and then we will go into the Q&A. Thanks, everybody.